Welcome to another episode of Vital DocTalk. And on today's show, we have Dr. Riley Anderson, a naturopathic doctor. Dr. Riley, welcome to the show.
Hey Vlad, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. Obviously, you're not from the US, and I know Canada is a little bit different, especially with how the whole situation is playing out over there. So, diversity is great. It's a great part of the show, right? Doctors need to have different inputs. So, that's one of the reasons I'd like to have you on here. And let's start with an easy warm-up question. Tell me about your background, what inspired you, to go down this path, and maybe your vision for the future.
Sure thing. So when I went to naturopathic med school, and that was at the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine, I'll just say CCNM going forward for short.
Okay.
So I was one of the few mature students. So I had actually been out of university for about 7 years before deciding to go back to school. So I did do a science-based undergrad at the University of Calgary. And then there's a bit of a phenomenon happening in Alberta at that time in the oil and gas industry. They needed people, they were offering great jobs with great benefits, and I took the dangling carrot, so to speak, and I actually went into the oil and gas industry after
Wow.
doing a kinesiology degree. So if people are wondering why would I do that? Well, essentially it's the stress of coming out of school and being in debt, and they're offering vacation packages and all sorts of things because the industry was booming. So I
Nice.
found myself in that industry for a good 7 years. And I always felt as though there were great people there. There's great opportunities and benefits, but something was lacking, obviously.
Hmm.
And what was lacking is that I couldn't really see the impact that I was making to my community or to society at large. I could see that I was going to work, I was getting a paycheck, I was benefiting myself, but I couldn't see myself benefiting others. And so that was really the turning point for me, was that I realized that there's got to be something more. I want to be benefiting others. I want to be benefiting the community, whatever community is that I find myself in.
Hmm.
And so I had the realization that I had to make a change, and I had to go back to school. And so that wasn't easy. I had to upgrade a few courses, organic chemistry and things like that. But I made it happen. And so now I'm a fairly new graduate and a fairly new doctor. So that's the background in a nutshell. Um,
Awesome. Keep going. Sorry.
yeah, I was just going to say that I've decided to go the route of mental health, and that's something that I would say that my colleagues, as far as I can see, it's something that's quite rare in naturopathic medicine, and especially I want to help people that have addictions. And so even within the realm of mental health, to say that you want to help people that have addictions is especially rare in naturopathic medicine. And I had another turning point while I was in school because I had my degree in kinesiology. I thought I was going to go into some sort of sports medicine or physical medicine. And I actually won a scholarship for excellence in physical medicine in my graduating year. But I had to really sit down and consider, how am I going to make the biggest impact? Who needs the most help? And it started almost like a journaling exercise. Who am I? What are my values? What can I bring to the table? And mental health came out because
Hmm.
it's something that not only that I've had to deal with in my personal life and seek treatment for and continue to, but I see it in my family, I see it in my friends, and the stats are staggering, not just of depression or addictions, but if you extend that to all mental health conditions, it's so prevalent. And I still believe that people aren't getting the help that they need, and there could
Hmm.
be a little bit of stigma associated with that, but i I just had to go a different route. And so that's also the in a nutshell background of why I went into mental health.
Awesome. And it sounds like you've definitely given it a lot of thought, right? And I think that's pretty key for whatever you choose to do. I always like to tell people whenever they tell me like, hey, I want to go down a career path, whatever. I say, what can you imagine yourself doing for at least 10 years? Because it takes a vast amount of time to rise in the ranks, get the experience, get the connections to actually make a big impact. And it sounds like you're on the right path, Dr. Riley. So being on that path, right? I know you just started on there. Tell me about the advice you'd have for other doctors, naturopaths who are looking to grow their practice? Is there a favorite marketing channel you like to use that you've had success with? Instagram, magazines, newspapers, Facebook? Tell me.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, I believe that the marketing channel should more or less be predicated upon your goals. So for myself, I'm not, at this point, I'm not building an online community and delivering webinars and things like that. I really want to help people in those face-to-face interactions. So for myself, the best way to get that face-to-face introduction, so they can get a sense of who I am, what I'm about, my attitude, my mannerisms, all that is through booking talks, because I'm really looking to bring people in from my community to see me face-to-face. So that would be one route, but that's, that the world these days is definitely online and electronic. So I'll talk about another route too. And this is something that I got from the marketers that handle some of our marketing for the clinic. So I work for a clinic,
Hmm.
and one of the things that they suggested is to write a blog and then actually use that blog to market on, let's say, on Facebook. So it gives people a reason to click and come to your website. And I know you have to pay a little bit of money for that, but I have had success. So an example would be, so during the lockdowns, I've been reading articles that mental health is on the rise, that alcoholism is on the rise. So I wrote a blog post about naturopathic approaches to alcoholism. And I used a tagline at the top of my ad and to get people to click on my blog. And it was essentially a statistic, and it said nearly 95% of those people that need help don't seek treatment. So I was kind of trying to get that emotional pull for people to click on the ad, and I had to stop the ad because it was costing me too much money. People were clicking on it like crazy, and
Wow.
this was just in my vicinity, so Nanaimo, BC, and maybe 25 miles radius out from there. And the strangers were sharing my ad. Like I had several people sharing my ad. I'd people commenting on it, and so that was a big success. Now the only caveat to that is I didn't actually see that turnover translate into patients coming through the door.
Mm.
Now there can be many reasons for that, of course, just being in the times that we're in. But I found that was a really interesting way, not only to drive people to my website, but also to get my name in there, and it seemed to really work.
That's interesting. We have different definitions personally for me for work, because I know there's a whole funnel, right, that we're talking about, and we don't really talk a lot about the funnel on the show, right? Top of the funnel is like whenever you're making a decision, there's first you need awareness, or like you want to be aware of the thing, and hopefully it resonates with the pain point. Then you're doing research, right? Like you're looking at your different options that you can take, and obviously with this content piece you attracted people that are in that research phase, that are
Hmm.
interested in the topic, and they're one step right before they're deliberating decision making, right? Like they're about to
Right.
make a decision. So have you ever gotten any results with I guess Instagram or any channels or referrals? What's been like your number one thing that's actually gotten you bottom line results in that funnel?
Yeah, honestly, it's been referrals from people within the community, and
Mm-hmm.
so I'm fortunate enough to work in a clinic with a chiropractor, for example, and
Mm-hmm.
so if he sees somebody that has chronic pain, he's able to do his adjustments, and then he says, Dr. Anderson has acupuncture and he has this electrostim machine, and he's going to help you with your pain, and he's going to be able to restore a little bit more function to, let's say, your shoulder. And so for now, as I've been starting, it's been this referral network. And
Great.
something that I did was I took my business cards, I went and Googled some of the top healthcare professionals, let's say registered massage therapists, let's say other chiropractors and things like that. And I looked, okay, so let's see, who are the top few here in the city? And I just did, the term cold calling, of course. Um, well, this was like cold walking into the place, and they're not expecting you. And you talk to the receptionist or whoever's there, and you say, "Hi, I'm a new practitioner. I'm looking to build a referral network. I have patients that routinely tell me they're looking for a massage therapist. Do you have anyone here that's accepting new patients that I can send your way?" And open up those lines of communication there.
That is perfect. That is beautiful. information, because we don't really talk about that on this podcast a lot, and we don't talk about it enough, right? When you're first starting out, you've got to create that referral network. And I was just talking to another doctor today, right? It's like for stuff like the content marketing that you were pointing at, right? You need more money there. You need to be spending a couple $1,000s a month on the campaign to get, 1,000 people to read it. Then maybe 2%, then 50 will actually look at the other pages of your site, and then one of those will convert, whatever, right?
Right.
But
Hmm.
if you don't have that, and if you're just starting out, you've got to create those face-to-face or in person or even virtual, I guess, connections.
Yep.
So did you do this during COVID, or do you still do this today?
I did. I was doing that the 2 weeks right before COVID,
Oh, nice timing.
right before the yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
right before the borders closed, right before we declared a state of emergency. However, something that I did also do is I would send up a follow-up email to that person. So
Mm-hmm.
I would, let's say I'd
Smart.
get the massage therapist's business cards, and I would send him a follow-up email. Some of them I was able to meet in person, others I weren't. But then at least I have that connection, right? I have that connection over email, and most of them emailed me back, which is great.
That's fantastic.
Now you've had that back and forth connection. So it's
Yeah.
something that I could open up that channel again, but the best way for me to open up that channel would be for me to actually refer one of my patients to them and really get it started to show that I'm working in good faith here. I'm not just looking for you to send me business. I'm actually going to get that started for you. So that's something that I'm looking to do now that things are easing and opening up again.
100%, right? You don't want just to create a one-way relationship in business, because then it's gonna take away from your own reputation. And I know you can't always equally help everybody, right? And I'm not saying just keep score, but you want to give to the community as well. So I like that. And the other thing that I guess doctors out there listening right now that are just, I guess, like they can't afford marketing, or maybe they're just starting out, et cetera. Maybe they're trying to get scrappier. What they should do if they're looking to take this approach and they can't go in person, your network is the second best way. Now, what Dr. Riley, obviously over here, he was able to just use Google and do a cold walk-in. You'd probably have to do Google and just do a call and maybe an email or something, and try that way. But the network is another really easy way. Talking to your other doctors, classmates, hey, do you know any good physical therapists, chiropractors, et cetera? And you should have one in each section. And then eventually you'll find that niche referral partner that can help you. And that's how you're going to be able to grow. So Dr. Riley, after you've, found somebody through this walking in method, how long did it take for you to actually get a referral? Did you have to talk to them 2 to 3 times? Did they just refer business right away? How did that work out?
Yeah, it never occurred unless I found there was some sort of an email back and forth, because when you're in the clinic talking to them, you're giving them your elevator pitch, maybe it's 60 seconds, maybe there's patients waiting in the front and you don't, you just want to be nice and succinct with what you're saying. So in my follow-up email, I was able to be a little bit more deliberate and detailed in what I'm looking for. And then they were able to send me something back what they were looking for. And then I'm not going to say it was immediate, but within the month, I would see patients.
Hmm.
And not from all of them, but from some of them. And it was the ones that we had that good back and forth connection through email after we met in person.
And that's I think very important, right? A lot of people, they might get that first interaction, and that's one of the keys to get the first interaction. But it probably takes, aim for 5 to 7 interactions.
Hmm.
And then obviously if it's past 7 interactions and nothing's coming out of the relationship, then you can put them on some kind of email list, or just maybe stay in touch every 6 months or whatever, or maybe
Yeah.
yearly. Sometimes you'll notice there's nothing there. But I think it's really important to have this skill set, this networking mindset when you first start, and then after that you can start going in other directions. So that's great, Dr. Riley. I'm glad that you're on that path. Now today, with coronavirus obviously being where it is, since you got hit by it, I think 2 weeks after you got hit by it, like right after you start or something, right?
Right when I was starting to see patients come through the door. Yeah.
Yeah. So how are you surviving? What are your tips for other doctors?
Sure. So I would say first and foremost, it's very important to distinguish between what you can and can't control when you're facing a setback. And so even just from a rational standpoint, that which you can't control, it's not worthwhile spending energy on. And I realize that that's easier said than done. And so it does take practice. It does take repetition. It's something that I'm working on personally as well. So once you've distinguished between what you can and can't control, look at what you can control. Downturns like this in the economy, they tend to be a great time to upgrade your education, for example. They tend to be a great time to get to to build that website that normally you didn't have time for, to make some YouTube videos. I just ordered a new microphone that's in the
Nice.
mail on its way right now. So I was looking at what I can control, and what I can control is increasing my output for blog posts. I can control upgrading my education, which I have been doing, and I can control these little projects, little and big projects that I haven't seemed to be able to get to previously. So that would be my best advice, is that you decide whether it's, so to speak, dead time or live time during downturns like this.
I like that, right? And this goes back to I think the best mindset, which is trying to figure out what are the advantages. And now you can run those experiments that maybe you haven't had time to run. You can update yourself and your knowledge and your practice. You can go in and, you could start blogging like Dr. Riley is looking to do, and start creating more content. A lot of other doctors, by the way, we've shot over 40 episodes now, so they're coming, guys. But basically, like they're not really doing too much either. So now is also a good time to network with them.
Hmm.
um, and write the book you always wanted to write. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can do, and I think really something key is making sure that you've got all your bases covered for your practice, right? Because one thing that I told my team here, and obviously we're not doctors, we do, we work with doctors and specialize in doctor marketing, is if you ask yourself that one question of what could I do to be hands down like the best versus everyone else in what I do and the problem I solve, you can take this time now to do that, right? You can write a book on that problem, Google reviews, network, etc. So awesome. Dr. Riley, if you were to give other doctors maybe one tip or an actionable takeaway, or maybe some kind of formula to follow to start succeeding more, what would it be?
Sure. So what I'm going to share perhaps parallels a little bit from your SEO guide when you start talking about conceptualizing your ideal patient and who they might be. So this parallels that a little bit, but I'll say that once you start seeing some patients trickle in, and that can even be your first 5 or 10 patients, you can listen to them and hear them and get your marketing ideas directly from them. And so I'll give you an example. So being in Nanaimo, BC, we have a shortage of medical doctors. And so when patients come through my door, what I started hearing them say is they don't feel like they've been supported through their healthcare journey. When they see a doctor, they don't feel as though they've been heard. They feel as though they've been dismissed. So in the Google ad that I have right now, it literally says, "Be heard, feel supported, visit a
I
naturopathic
love that.
doctor." so so don't discount what your patients who are right in front of you are saying, right? They're the ones who are telling you. And so there's a ton of great advice in your book about trying to do research on keyword searches and see what people are searching for, but also pay attention to what people are saying right in front of you. So that would be one thing. The other thing I would say is take take an intake about your external environment at the clinic. So is there foot traffic happening outside of your clinic, but you don't have some sort of a sign saying your clinic's here and pointing in towards the front door? Is there a big sign, like we have a big sign outside of our clinic, and the text wasn't being used? And I asked the clinic owner, "Hey, can we announce that I'm here?" And he said, "Yeah, okay." And one night, now all of a sudden we have text at a major intersection saying, "Please welcome Dr. Anderson to our team." So just pay attention. There might be little opportunities in and around the office that don't seem obvious unless you're really looking. Is there a whiteboard near reception or in one of the chiro's office that isn't being utilized that you can just write, "Want to know more about naturopathic medicine," or whatever your niche is? And so that would be another piece. That's something that I've started looking at recently too. And it's amazing how many opportunities there are in your immediate environment.
Yeah, I think there's limitless things you can do, right? And you just got to think about what's that end goal and what's going to get me the closest there. I like your suggestions, especially using your audience to grow, because I think if you listen to them, right, and you make sure that you incorporate what they're saying into your practice, you can get a lot farther. And you should be in the ideal, I was reading this book about fast growing companies, and the best people that know their clients, they're very rarely surprised by what their clients have to say because they know them so well. And if you doctors listening out there don't know your ideal customer well enough, then you got to get to work there and start having those conversations. So Dr. Riley, you made it through the interview. Tell us more about where can we find you? What should we be reading? What should we be checking out?
Sure. So check out my website. It's drAnderson.ca, and that's spelled out DoctorAnderson.ca. So that would be one place to find me. You can also find me on Instagram, Dr. Riley Anderson ND, and I'm also on Facebook. So what I hope one day to be producing is YouTube videos. I think that's a great opportunity because then you can post those videos on multiple platforms, and then prospective patients just get a much better sense of who you are and what you're about.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. That was another episode of Vital Doc Talk with Dr. Riley Anderson.